Hello? Yeah, I'll be right there.
Hi, Keri. Welcome to the Jersey Girl Podcast. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having me in your office. It's so cute in here. We were just talking.
It's adorable. It's a little labor of love. I try to keep it like bright and colorful for people.
It does feel bright. Even though it's rainy outside, it does feel really bright.
And it's small, but it's like very homey. I have like a million plants.
It doesn't feel that small though. I feel like it's a good size.
It's a good size. It's a good size for certain things, but like it definitely feels like home to a lot of people that come in.
So it's nice.
Thank you.
So why don't you give us a little surface level, just like, you know, top of the water, like a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so let's see how I can start this. So I grew up in Kinnelon, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a small family. I have a twin brother and a younger sister.
Mm-hmm.
My twin brother has autism, so that basically like just I guess like colored my story. So that's really where like a lot of my life decisions were rooted out of, was just growing up with Brian. So I currently live in Denville and I work in Denville, so we're just Denville all the time. Yeah. So I'm still in Jersey. I love Jersey. I love Morris County. I went to undergrad at Muhlenberg College in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Yeah. So I wasn't too far. And then when I decided to go to graduate school, I went to Seton Hall. Okay. So I literally just am like Jersey through and through. Like I have not strayed far from this area. So when I decided to look for jobs, I knew I wanted to stay close to home, mostly because, Brian still lives with my parents and I wanted to be close to him. Yeah. So I wound up, my first job out of school it still is, I work as a speech therapist in a private school in Denville. Okay. And then as I progressed through my career, I kind of wanted to do a little bit more with speech therapy. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to open up a private practice. So I like started going to people's houses in North Jersey. It was so much driving. And at some point I was like, okay, eventually I would like to like have a little home base somewhere. Yeah. And then COVID hit. So it was kind of like the most like universal sign to be like, okay, now everything's virtual. You're going to do it at home. Yeah. This is like a hard stop on the driving. And then it was like within 6 months after COVID, I signed a lease on this space. And this is where I do all of my therapy sessions. And I work at the school that's 4 minutes down the road. So I literally lived like 10 minutes from here. I work 4 minutes from here part-time, and then I'm here. So I'm just Denville through and through right now.
When you were in college, what made you choose a speech pathology path?
So I actually had no idea what I wanted to do for 3.5 years out of the 4 years that I was in college. I think it was around like spring semester, junior year, and my mom was like, okay, like it's time to start thinking about what you want to do after school. And I was like, I'm a psych major, I'm a business major, like I don't know, I just want to help people. So it was like so vague. And then my mom said, okay, well think about like people that helped Brian when he was growing up. Why don't you consider some of the therapies? And it was literally just like my mom driven. So she had me like reach out and connect to people. I was looking in the speech therapy field, the PT field, and the OT field. I shadowed all three. And then I was like, I saw the speech therapist like sitting on the floor playing Candyland. And I was like, that one.
I want to be that one.
That was the one that I chose. And I actually don't really do anything similar to what I was shadowing, but I didn't even know like what the field of speech therapy was really. I just saw this like one session of this child playing a game and they were having so much fun. And I was like, people get paid for that kind of stuff? Like, that's amazing. Yeah. So that was it. It was like the light bulb moment. And then I just like went full speed ahead speech therapy.
If someone like is listening, they don't exactly know what speech therapist is, how would you explain it to them?
So I think that people really just generalize speech therapy to be like something that helps people talk better. Yeah. But it's so much more than that. So it's actually good to like, be able to tell people this, but it just like spans from being able to work with people on like speech sound disorders, spanning all the way to like memory disorders or people who have neurological differences, working on social skills or swallowing or feeding. You can work in a hospital, you can work in a school. It's really, it just spans, like there's different domains. So you can be really just helping someone communicate better, or you can help someone be able to eat food safer. Yeah. So it's really like a cool field because I think a lot of people don't realize that.
So when you graduated from college, did you start in your own practice, or did this progress into something else?
No, so I started. When I went to grad school, I did a bunch of internships in schools, and so I
Okay.
was like, okay, like I think that I like the idea of working in a school because you get summers off and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I started working in a specialized school right out of grad school, and then it wasn't until I would say 2 years into it that I decided to open up something on the side.
Okay.
So I've been doing both for probably 7 years now, which
Mhm.
is crazy, but also like very rewarding in different
Yeah.
ways.
How was going to those houses? Like, how did you get clients to be able to like sustain that?
It was word of mouth.
Okay.
The school helped because once people would graduate, once the students turn 21, they like kind of go into the real world and there's not
Yeah.
a lot of opportunities. So a lot of people were like, oh, can we continue speech therapy? And I said, like, of course, I think that would be really good for you. And we wound up, I think, like right off the bat, I started with two that I was going to houses through. I was going to two people's houses.
Yes.
And then I wound up just like word of mouth, like
Mhm.
connecting with different families and different people. And it just like kind of took off from there.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I know you also do like groups
Yeah.
for kids with special needs.
Yeah. So that is a new thing, I would say,
Okay.
like the past 2 years. That really started because I was thinking about my brother Brian,
Yeah.
and he goes to a day program. And when they turn 21, they can go to college, they can go
Yeah.
to employment, they can
Mhm.
go to a day program, and the day program is, depending on what it is, it's great because they have socialization there, but that's until like 3 p.m. And then
Yeah.
they go home, and then sometimes like they just sit on the couch. And I
Yeah.
mean, like it's really dependent on what they want to do and what the parents want them to do. But I was thinking about Brian, and I was like, okay, Brian has a great day program, but after hours, like he doesn't
Yeah.
have much to do. And I was like,
Yeah.
why is that? Oh, it's because there's not a lot of opportunities. No one's fault. It's just like
Yeah.
that's just not really what's existing around
Mhm.
here. So I decided that that was going to be like a mission of mine.
Mhm.
And I really just kind of planned the first year with him in mind, with his
Yeah.
input. Like he
Yeah.
totally helped me plan it because he's like, I like to go to restaurants and I want to go to the arcade and I want to do this.
Yeah.
And so everything that I do for this Club Connect group that I run is just thinking about Brian.
Mhm.
And now Brian has this like family of adults, and he like looks forward to the programming,
Yeah.
and then they all kind of look forward to it. So it was really just like inspired by him.
Yeah. I feel like it just if you don't live with someone who has like something like that, I feel like you don't think twice about
Nope.
what they're doing after
Yeah.
like school, like after
Yeah.
high school. And like I remember like obviously in my high school we had those kids, and like
Mhm.
I remember that they do a little longer, but it's like I always thought like what happens after?
Yeah.
Like you go to I know certain places in LBI, I think the Compassion Cafe,
Mhm.
they have like the jobs and stuff there,
Yep.
but I feel like it's harder to make that community.
Yeah.
And
And there's not enough.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
and everyone that's doing this work is like amazing, and
Yeah.
it's great. And I just wish there was more.
Yeah.
And we kind of like people who work with adults with disabilities, we
Mhm.
kind of all like are connected in some way. And
Yeah.
we all start like forming relationships with each other and kind of building off of each other,
Mhm.
because what we kind of all realize, like there's not a lot of people that do this work.
Mhm.
So we want to be able to build off of each other. It's
Yeah.
nice because it's not like competitive. It's like let's just give them as many opportunities as we
Yeah.
can.
Mhm.
Because you think about that in a lot of fields, it's like you're like even speech therapy, like you're really competing with somebody else and you're comparing yourself
Yeah.
to their practice. But for this side of it, you're like, I'm just doing something good for them, and like all these other people are also doing something
Yeah.
good. And like who's to say Brian could do my program one day and then do another person's program another
Mhm.
day. Like it's such a good like camaraderie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like also like socializing. I know you saw one where they all went to like the hair salon.
Yeah.
Like, that's so cute. And I feel like
Yeah.
it's something so basic, but having that like community and like maybe not making it as a stimulating environment too for
Mhm.
them, making sure it's like
Yeah.
you know.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's like another like something that I really want to talk about is like just not only exposing my clients to like opportunities, but
Mhm.
exposing businesses to working with
Yeah.
individuals with disabilities, because I feel like even like downtown Denver, for example, like it's a fantastic downtown and there's so many great opportunities in businesses down here. And like when my guys walked into like Ivy Hair Salon, like shout out to them, they were just so kind. Like
Yeah.
they were so welcoming. And I just wish like every business would be like that, even if it's
Mhm.
not a structured group coming in.
Yeah.
If you see a mom walking in with her like 9-year-old who's on the spectrum, there should be some sort of like understanding and acceptance in your space, like either if it's like a retail store or a coffee shop. So I think that that's like a big mission of mine in general, is just to get more people thinking about like just welcoming them. And I've said this on like to other people, like just talk to them, just like treat
they're
them
no
like
different
humans.
than anyone else.
No, and like that's the most important thing I think for like a lot of businesses to know, is just like, if you want to learn more about how to like interact with these individuals, like there's people out there that can help you. And if you're a little nervous, like just always say hi. Don't treat them like any differently than anybody else.
And I feel like probably for parents too, it's nice to have like an outlet for like their kids to do, because it kind of like helps take a little bit of pressure off them to not have to worry about their like 21-year-old, like what are they gonna do? Are they gonna be okay? Like I think also seeing the love on the spectrum, like that come out. And I think that's really given a lot more like awareness, I guess you could say, and seeing how the moms handle everything. It's very like eye-opening to see that, like how they handle it, 'cause it's definitely not easy. And
and it's not just about the individuals, it's about like the family members. Like I even try to do work with like siblings who because I'm a sibling, I'm an adult sibling of an individual with autism, and there's a lot of other people that are in the same boat as me, but they're not in this world professionally, so they may not know what's coming next, and like that's something that is so scary. So I've tried really hard to connect with other siblings, and in the future I would love to do something for the parents, like you said, because the parents are a huge, like they have a lot of anxiety about the future for their children. So it's like, if they can see that platforms like this exist, then it makes them feel a little bit more secure. But like Love on the Spectrum is I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's like just the best show because of how they portray like all different sides of the spectrum, and like all of
they
that.
really show like the back end of like that they also like want to find love. They're also like they're a human, so they want to find the love, they want to find the belonging, and having that other person. I love Connor and I love Tanner.
I know.
They're like my favorite. I want to meet them so bad.
They're fantastic, and I just love that they like what they represent. Like they are just so authentically themselves, and like there is no sugarcoating. And like I think I've watched like some behind the scenes of Love on the Spectrum, and like the cast members literally say like, no, they don't like script it for us. Like we just do what we do, and then maybe they'll make us like walk down the stairs a different time if they need the right shot for it, but like it's so good because it just like authentically showcases them. And so when people watch it, like sometimes that's their first exposure to like individuals with disabilities, and that's wild to me because I'm so like in the field. So that's why I'm like, oh, okay, if Netflix is doing that for somebody, like opening their eyes to the fact that like so many amazing individuals like exist and want these opportunities, like thank you, Netflix.
No, and I love seeing like all of Connor's just like funny sayings and quotes, and how he'll just say whatever he's thinking too. I think it really is like eye-opening to see, like, and I feel like all of them are different in their own way. It's not like, I mean, you learn that like every person on the spectrum, it handles them. They handle it differently, and they have different experiences, different like mannerisms. You have Tanner who's like super happy, and then you have like Danny who's just like trying to find like a boyfriend, or is super into like her graphic design and all that. She's on panels. I think it's just cool to see.
And there's no like right or wrong or like cookie cutter. Like it really like showcases like neurodiversity. That's like a big topic now, is that we just have to like accept everybody for who they are. Like everyone has individual differences. Like some people get extremely overstimulated in like an office like this where there's fluorescent lights, and so if I have a client walk in and I know that, like I'm gonna turn the lights off, but some people may just like be totally okay with that, and like just adapting environments to them is like super important. So like that show is great because it shows so many different you saw like the one scene where like there was one, I think he was, I don't know how old he was, probably 30, and he like was in the restaurant and he had his head on the table because of how loud it was. Like that's okay. Like, and then he like asked to move outside, and they showed that whole thing, and that was awesome for everyone to see. But I do like a lot of my work with the adults is like self-advocacy, like because at the end of the day, they know themselves the best, and sometimes it's harder for them to like articulate that. So I have some users that are nonverbal, and I will actually like program iPad programs that are their communication programs, and I'll literally program like advocacy phrases, like something is too loud, or they need help, or they need it repeated, and like that is so important, especially for the adults, because they're going into all these settings with all these new people all the time, and like they know themselves the best. The parents know themselves the best, but if the parents are not there to advocate, like they need to be able to do it in some way.
So what does your day-to-day look like at the office? How are you, like, what clients are you taking? Like, if you had kind of like more of a structured, typical day, what would you say it's like if you were in the office?
So most of the time, so 3 days a week, I actually go to the school until I go from 8 to 3:30, and then I come here. So actually, a typical day for me would be going to the school, down the road, and then coming here, and I see. I would say I have about, on average, like 3 sessions afterwards. So the days are long, but they're fantastic. And usually, like, at this point, I know my clients so well. Most of my guys have like a very strict routine. So they come in usually like just to promote independence. I'll have the parents drop them off in front, and now they will come up by themselves. They walk into the office, they would do like a little check-in. We have our therapy session. Sometimes, actually this morning, we do community-based therapy. So the cool thing about being downtown here is that we can just walk anywhere. So one of my moms had requested that I work on like, just socializing in the community and ordering food at a restaurant. So him and I actually went to a coffee shop this morning, and I took him, and we kind of had the script rehearsed on what he was going to say, and then he went up to the counter, he ordered, paid with his credit card. And so sometimes it can look like that. So it's actually like my day-to-day is not always like super consistent. Some days I'll have, like, on Wednesday night I had a Club Connect like theater group with a colleague of mine who actually used to be my high school theater director. She hosted a theater class for us. So I had a whole day of therapy, and then I went there and did that. But it's just like, it doesn't, half the time it doesn't feel like work because it's just so fun. Like Brian, my brother, was at that theater class, and like showing up there, it just kind of feels like I'm hanging out with my brother and his friends,
which is great.
And I think being in a similar age bracket to them kind of helps, because I don't work with like the littles, and a lot of people who I am connected with in the speech therapy world work with the little kids, and they love that. And it's like, to each their own. Like for me, this is much more rewarding, you know. And I do feel like I kind of, whenever I have Club Connect programming or social groups, like I do try to shape it to be like, I'm not your authority. I am a peer that is just guiding you, safely and giving you opportunities. And I think that's what makes it so successful.
And I love that you don't have like a structured way of doing it. Like, the mom's like, I want him to learn how to go order by himself. Like, you go and do that. Cause I think for parents, it's like they just don't know how to like work with. They're just like, they're probably so overwhelmed. So having someone that's like, hey, can you really help him with this? And you're like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I got it. It probably is fun.
And like texting skills. Like some of my parents have, my adult just got a phone, and can you work on, sending text messages back and forth, or like, can you help him? He's starting a college class. Can you look at his campus map and kind of navigate through it with him? And so it's really different than just like standardized speech therapy. So when people hear like sharper speech, people just automatically think I'm like working with kids on like how to pronounce the S sound. And I'm like, not quite. No. It's actually very different than that.
But it probably makes it so rewarding to see the progression, to see like your clients getting better, like not getting better, but just like, like getting better at socializing and, not just sitting at a table.
They love meeting each other. And some of them will come in and they're, they like to keep them themselves. Like they're comfortable sitting in the corner, but they feel safe because they know the people in the room, they know all the other members, and like that's what I want. I'm never gonna force anyone to do anything they don't want to do, because at this age, like, you're an adult, you make your own decisions. Like, I'm not forcing you to participate in something, but if you feel like you can come in and sit and just kind of watch, then I'm happy. Like, that's what I want this space to be for them.
So what are other things you work on with, like, people wanted to come to you and they like need help? What are things that you work on, or your services that you offer?
So besides like the social groups and the social experiences, usually what I will like market us as is like sharper speech is really like a speech therapy practice for like the post 21 adult world. And I really do cater it to like the caregivers and or the adults themselves. So I had one client in the past who, like, he was giving a speech at MoMA, and for like 3 months we just worked on like rehearsing and the articulation of that specific speech. And that was something so specific to him and what he wanted to do, and what his mom, really was like hoping for him. And that was kind of like his goal. So it's hard for me to like say we do one, one or a few things. Like, we really just like work on social communication, higher level thinking skills. I like to say that I like to make my clients think because after they graduate, a structured school program, who knows where they are.
Yeah.
So when they come here, like, I just like to make them think differently and like communicate differently than maybe they're doing at their day program or at home. So I think when parents like bring them here, they come in, some have some expectations, and then when I kind of say to them, like, they're 35 years old. Like, I'm not going to be working on articulation sounds with them at this point. I'm going to be working on just ways for them to be able to communicate with other people like successfully and just make them think differently.
What's the most rewarding part or like your favorite part about having your own practice?
I think it's the like family feel that I get. I think like my clients and their parents are just so like, they're just, every single one of them is wonderful.
Yeah.
Like those flowers over there are from a parent. And I think it's just the relationships that I build with the clients and their families. And like, I would say for the most part, when they walk in here, they're like very excited to be here. So I think just the family feel like I actually like, I have Sharper Speech apparel and I'll gift it to them, and like they wear it all the time. Like they love to be part of something. And so, I love like the Club Connect thing that I started to develop. Like I want to start thinking about like actually making apparel for them with their names on it, so that there's like a sense of belonging to them.
Yeah, and it probably is super. I think the best part about always like owning your own business is that you get to see the community that you build. Yeah. You get to see like, it's like you did that. You made that community happen. They wouldn't have found each other if you didn't.
And I don't usually like, people always are like, oh wow, you're doing amazing work. It's all you. And I'm like, I don't even consider myself to be like an entity. Like I consider myself to just be part of the group. Like, I'm pulling the string, like behind the scene, I'm pulling the strings, but like, I just feel like I'm just part of the group with them. And like my husband is actually a special ed teacher, so he works with us. So it's like, and I have some colleagues that I'm friendly with and they work for me. So it's really just like a family feel all around. And I just can't wait to keep like growing it and bringing more people into the family.
Yeah. What's like the hardest part about owning your own business, if there is one?
I think it's just the logistics of like, the wait list of clients. Like people really want services once they turn 21 and they realize like they can get speech therapy. I think people are starting to realize that they can, and there's so few practices that work with adults. So I'm getting tons of emails like every week, and I have to just tell everybody like, we have no space right now. And until we grow bigger and until, things start to shift and expand and changes happen, like I just have to say no to people. And it's tough because I wish I could just have everybody and help everybody. And like, I wish my social group could be like 100 people, but I have to, at some point, like logistics come into play and I have to kind of put my foot down. And I actually have learned my lesson, because in this room here, I've grown the group to about 15 members now. And literally we cannot fit in this space. So I'm starting to realize like, oh, okay, like I have to start thinking differently logistic wise. That's the hardest part.
What how do you like do the back end of Club Connect? Like how do you get opportunities for the kids?
I just network. I actually I like slide into so many businesses DMs all the time.
DMs work though. That's like networking is.
I mean, I slid into your DMs. Yeah, like literally, that's how it works.
People are like, they're not gonna answer, but you have to just do it, because it's like, what's the worst? They just don't see it.
Right. Yeah. And I always have, I have my little copy and paste thing about like being a local Denville business. And, I kind of try to make it for them, be like, this is a really good opportunity for you, because you can learn how to work with this population. And like, you can be accepting of working with this group. And so I really just message businesses. And I've had, on the other end, I've had people reach out to me. I think as we've grown and like we're a little more present on social media, people start reaching out to me, which is nice. But for the most part, I'm just kind of like talking to different businesses downtown, and then they'll be like, oh, I have a hair salon that is in Boonton, and they would love to work with you. And like that's the kind of stuff that's starting to happen now, which is kind of cool.
So networking is so important. It's like something they don't really teach you in school, but I've learned at my age, like networking is so important, because that's how like you just get all the cool opportunities, how you grow yourself and your business is by just networking, because you never know who you're going to talk to.
No, and like some businesses are they could go their entire careers without even knowing that they are like this population could come in and like receive the services or or shop in their store, and like it could be such a good thing for like all parties. And so I love to like branch out and network with these businesses because then they start to think differently. And like, that's kind of just like what should be happening nowadays.
Yeah.
You know,
if someone's listening and they want to work on their skills with like interacting with that type of population, what like advice do you give to people just to make sure that everyone is comfortable and that like, you know?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I definitely would say like what we've said before, like first of all, they're human beings. So first and foremost, like always look at them and speak to them. Don't automatically assume that you have to talk to the person that's with them. You know, and then just gauging on what their body language is like, and if they're really, if they seem motivated to have an interaction with you, then, you know, go for it. Otherwise, I would kind of just gauge like, is there a communication partner that's with them that could assist? Or, you know, at the end of the day, some people just don't want to talk. I have plenty of clients that like, they just are okay not talking to people, and that's fine. Like, they are more of a people watcher, and they will self-advocate and like bare minimal language to just like, you know, say that they're hungry or thirsty, but they don't want to have conversations, and that's okay. And that's part of the neurodiversity movement. Like, it's okay if they're not going to talk to you about their day. You just say hi and they don't say hi, like, that's okay. And, you know, I would just say reach out to people to learn more. Or if you have opportunities and people approach you, like, do you want to learn more about this population? Like, always say yes, because it is a growing population. Individuals with disabilities there's a big boom, and even adults, like, you know, I was born in the early 90s, and like my brother was like the first wave of like the big boom of like people being diagnosed with autism, and it's just growing. So like businesses and people like should kind of take that initiative, I think.
If people want to find you and they want to reach out, they want to help, because I know you don't have any room, but if people just want to like get in contact and just like more about you, where can they find you on Instagram?
At Sharper Speech. I'm always on I'm always on Instagram. It's where I do a lot of my like networking. But I guess for like people who are seeking services or want to learn more about Club Connect, they can go on our website, which is www.sharperspeech.com, and they can send an inquiry through there. That's how I like to correspond with like that side of things.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on and just talking. I feel like this was such a fun conversation. Definitely one that needed to be had.
Yeah.
Because I learned a lot too, and it was fun talking.
Yeah, thanks, Madison.